If you're new to modern board games and you're trying to work out which games to buy, you're in the right place. I've been recommending great gateway games on Axolotl for years, and now I've pulled them all together for the ultimate guide. And if you find one you want to buy, there are Amazon and Zatu links in the description. To help you decide, for each game, I'll put the best number of people to play it with on screen, because you can't trust what it says on the box. And I've divided the games into 4 categories. First is cooperative games, where you're working together with your fellow players to win against the game. They're a great bonding experience because you all play your part in solving a crime or escaping a sinking island together. And they're great for anyone who hates losing. Next are what I'm calling personal puzzles, where you're playing against each other, but you're focused on doing your own thing, like creating an animal habitat or designing a home. They're thoughtful games for people who like to strategize and don't like it when other players ruin their plans. If you want something more social, the next category is friendly competition, where you're playing on a shared board and you have to watch out for your rivals who could take the treasure you've got your eye on or make your train take the long way round. These are great for a group with a competitive streak. And continuing in that vein, the final category is feisty, where the real game is happening above the table as you try to outthink your friends, negotiating the best deal, lying to each other's faces, and trying to capsize their lifeboat. For those who like excitement and drama and don't mind being attacked. It's a very unscientific spectrum from friendly games to more interactive ones. In my opinion, none of the games in this video are too mean or aggressive for newbies, but everyone has their own threshold. So I hope it helps you find a game that you'll love. And if you do find this video useful, please like and subscribe so it will reach more people and help them too. The first group of games are cooperative games where you're all working together to win as a team. When I was first getting into board games, Pandemic was what made me fall in love. You work together with your friends to save the world, flying around the globe trying to cure 4 deadly diseases.
Flying? Well, you know the air conditioning on those planes just throw bacteria in your face. Cheryl says that's how her husband got chlamydia, and we're pretending to believe her so that she doesn't get another divorce.
You're playing against the game as it spreads disease across the world. It's a race against time to find a cure before it's too late.
You know, if they just got a good night's sleep and stopped eating all that rubbish, they wouldn't be ill all the time.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to stop Ebola, Mum. But you also have to treat infected cities and prevent outbreaks, because there's not much point finding a cure after the whole world has succumbed to the virus. And Barry, we need you to fly to London to stop an outbreak. London? I wouldn't go to London if it was the last place on Earth. It is the last place on Earth. Well, then I think you already have my answer. You each play a vital role, such as medic or quarantine expert, making you better than the other players at certain things. The joy and the challenge is in looking at the map, discussing your options, and working out how best to work together. You can't be the hero on your own, you need each other. Cooperative games are great social experiences because they bring your friends together against a common foe. Like, if someone says something rude to you on the street and you spend the rest of the night bonding over how much of a dickhead he was, Pandemic is the best dickhead you'll ever meet.
I hate Pandemic.
I've never played such a no-good, scummy, rotten piece.
It's ghastly. But we almost had it this time.
One more go then? Yeah, obviously. You will lose, but you'll lose together. And you'll want to go again having learnt from your mistakes to really show that dickhead what for. If you're new to modern board games, Pandemic is the perfect medley of excitement, strategy, and social interaction with a fun challenge that's different every time. And if you fall in love with it, there are expansions that add more levels to it, or entirely new games with different settings that are based on the same core idea. If you put this screen up and tell your friends there's been a murder and that they're psychic investigators sent to commune with the ghost of the victim, you'll have their attention. Not that you need it for long, because the rules to Mysterium are very simple. Pretty cool, huh?
Wow. Are we playing Dungeons and Dragons?
And you can get them up to speed quicker by telling them it's like a game they've already played, Cluedo, because in this you also have to find the right murder weapon, location, and suspect. The twist is that someone is playing as the ghost, and they'll be communicating how they were killed through psychic visions. The trouble with psychic visions is they're ambiguous and confusing, which must be really hard on professional psychics who are already under pressure from all the skeptics. All I'm saying is, they don't get to decide who they're on the phone with. The psychics are all working together to solve the crime, and so they discuss the dreams they just had with each other to work out what they mean. Something you should never do in real life because you might bore someone to death. You're looking at the cards you've been given to try and find a common theme or symbol that leads to one of the suspects, and then you put your crystal ball on the one you think. If you're struggling, you can just guess, which is a bit unrealistic because a real psychic would never do that. It's great fun being the ghost, trying to piece together a clue that they'll notice, and then sitting there listening as they completely miss it and fixate on something else.
This one has a park, and whenever we go to the park, we have cheese sandwiches. So I'm looking for something with cheese.
No, not that one.
Did you say something?
No?
Oh no, there must be a wheel ghost.
Sherlock Holmes consulting detective, you're in Victorian London. There's been an adorably quaint jewel robbery or throat slitting, and you've got to work together to solve it.
Let's go to the jeweller's to interrogate the owner.
The proprietor of Radford Jones & Co. is caught between a natural reticence to talk about his client's financial affairs in general.
It's like reading from a Sherlock Holmes novel as you meet with witnesses. Your job is to make notes and piece them together to solve the crime. Not by rolling dice or playing cards, but using your own powers of deduction. It's like Jonathan Creek or Hercule Poirot or some reference Americans will get have invited you to do their big final reveal.
He let everyone think that his arm was broken, when in fact it was his twin brother Archibald that fell off the horse.
There won't be many horses where he's going. Jail.
You'll pore over the day's newspapers, verify alibis with the map, and go back over your clues until finally something clicks.
We did it.
Magic Maze is all about teamwork, playing in sync with your friends, reading each other's minds.
We're so in sync that we finish each other's
Dignitas applications. Your mission is to stage a robbery. You need to get your characters through the shopping mall to steal their loot and then get to the exits to escape. But instead of controlling a character each, you control a direction. So every time a character needs to walk west, only you can move them there.
I suppose you could call me Kanye West.
Yes, and I'm Kanye South.
Yes, darling, except there isn't a famous person called that, and you're controlling North.
Oh.
To get a character anywhere, you have to work together. Someone takes it west to the corner, another player takes it north, for a third player to take it eastwards. For a third player to take it eastwards, Barry.
What?
You need everyone paying attention because you're racing against a timer. And the problem is, you're not allowed to talk. So if your teammate is experiencing telepathic connectivity problems, you're screwed.
Timmy, the timer.
But I thought John was Kanye South.
He is, but you're North, which was the direction that we needed to go in.
Oh, okay. But if I'm North, who's Kanye North?
One game takes 15 minutes and then you go again and again. Each time you get a bit better, like a new band finding their rhythm. Magic Maze is addictive and unlike any board game you've ever played. Chronicles of Crime gives you a faff-free experience by using a mobile app to be the brains of the game. Okay, so you still have to lay out some cards, but that's some of that polyunsaturated faff that's actually good for you. And it cuts out any rules faff by teaching you how to play while you play an introductory scenario. You play as detectives trying to solve a crime together, and you use the mobile app to interact with that world. When you visit the crime scene, for example, you get to explore the room on the app like you're looking around it yourself to try and find evidence.
Oh, there's a knife. And the sleepy woman is covered in ketchup. John, I think she might be making a sandwich.
And the evidence you find then becomes cards that you can ask people about. To interview a suspect, you scan their QR code and read what they have to say. If you've been to a restaurant in the last 2 years, I know you can do that. The genius of the app is that you can ask a suspect about anyone or anything, scanning the code of a book you found at the crime scene or a rumor someone told you about. Sometimes they won't know what you're talking about, but when you get a juicy answer, it feels great.
Ask him about the ketchup.
Wow, they tested the ketchup that was found at the lunch scene, And it actually belongs to the politician.
She stole his ketchup. No wonder he killed her.
Oh, so you know she's dead?
Yes.
Does it make you sad?
No, but I am hungry.
And just like in a real case, asking the right questions will open up whole new places to visit and people to interview. And by the end, you've got to use everything you've learned to solve the case.
I think we should have left the politician.
But we know that he couldn't have killed her on that day.
Yeah, but he's a politician. He's guilty of something.
Now, I wouldn't want to play every board game with an app, but with Chronicles of Crime, it means you never have to worry about the rules or getting anything wrong. It's your personal faff butler, which is a nice break when that person is usually you. Timmy, do you want me to teach you another game?
Yes, but tidy this one away first.
In Forbidden Desert, you play as Indiana Jones adventurers trapped in a desert in the middle of a sandstorm. You work together as a team to collect the missing parts of your aircraft before you die of thirst. It's a nail-biting experience as you desperately try to keep everyone alive and complete your mission. And it's rare to get such a well-produced, complete board game for the price. In Burgle Brothers, you play as a gang of criminals trying to pull off a heist together. Whether it's Jonas, Wilson, or Hemsworth, your mission is to burgle brothers, to steal the secret of their good looks on behalf of the vengeful ugly one that every family is cursed with. Except you're not the most organised of criminals because you forgot to bring a map. You have no idea where the safes are or what alarms you're about to set off until you explore your surroundings. You can take it slow and reveal the rooms next to you so that you know what you're heading into, or run straight through, risking tripping alarms because the longer you take, the more likely you are to be caught. The building is rigged to the hilt with traps that trigger in different ways. It rewards a thought-out, methodical approach. There's 100 ways to skin this cat burglary, so it's a game where everyone will be pitching in ideas on what to do. And there's a security guard patrolling each floor. You can see the path they're headed along, and there are times that you'll need to set off an alarm to distract them from catching your teammate. It gives you the thrill of hiding in the shadows, and you feel clever when you coordinate your movements to success. It feels like pulling off a heist. I say that having only ever stolen a magazine by accident. But that magazine went out of business, and who can say if it's because of my thievery or a shift in public reading habits towards online publications in the 20 years since I did it. This scripted mod saves you all the hassle of setting up the floor tiles and automates the guard movements each turn. Burgle Brothers is one of the best cooperative games around for 2 to 4 players in 2 hours. Detective Season 1 is a follow-up to Detective: A Modern Crime Game, a cooperative crime-solving game from Portal Games that was my favourite game of 2018. Season 1 offers a simpler, shorter take on the original, with 3 standalone cases that last about 90 minutes each. You read the opening story and then it's up to you to decide which leads to follow. You have limited time to work with and you have to use your intuition to decide which leads will be worth it. I really like that the game lets you decide how to approach it. There's no magic piece of evidence you need to find to solve the case. Rather, each card will give you an extra thread to add to your web as you build theories. It feels real. Criminals don't just confess, but they will say something that gives you a clue. It promotes real deduction. The answer isn't handed to you. You need to make notes to catch the little details, and you need to discuss theories with your teammates, which is exactly what you want from a crime-solving game. I've played all 3 cases, and they're really well written. Every time we found out a new piece of information, our theory changed, just like watching a whodunit. Season 1 takes it one step further by giving you photos of the suspects, which you can use in your mind map. A nice touch that really encourages you to get into the spirit of the game. I like that you get different types of evidence through their police database website. Case 1 has CCTV clips of the victim, and the simple but clever stress level indicators, which tell you when a suspect could be lying, reminiscent of the video game LA Noire. The cases manage to retain the same feel of detective in a format that is much more accessible and a great introduction to the genre for newbies. There's something special about a game that you can start playing on its cover. It asks us, who murdered the burger vendor? Here's the burger place in the top corner, and you can see our guy serving a customer. Then you have to find out where he goes next. Here, he's left the burger place and he's walking down the street, smiling without a care in the world. But who's that following him with a mask on? Oh no, he's got a baseball bat. And there's the body. The poor guy has served his last burger. Micro Macro is a hidden picture book turned into a game that doesn't just ask, where's Wally? But why's Wally carrying a pickaxe? Who's Wally killing in cold blood? And what's Wally gonna do with the body? Where it trumps Wally is that the characters don't just appear once, they move through the world and tell a story. So each case has you finding the people involved and following them, observing what they do. Take the case of Disco Chips. You find local DJ Lars Vegas shot dead in a back alley. You can trace him back to where he bought his chips, find out where he lived, work out who killed him and why. And I say you because you can literally play this case online to get a taste of the game. Micro Macro gives you that simple joy of discovery. The huge map is so detailed, and each case has you explore new parts of this world that feel alive with character and riddled with crime. So when you're hunting for a criminal, you'll come across a baby drinking coffee. And there's something really nice about bumping into characters from your previous cases. It's like seeing an old friend. An old murderous friend. I love exploring the world because the artwork is so cute. When we play, we're always pointing out little Easter eggs to each other, finding our favorite characters. It's no surprise that this game was designed by the illustrator, because the art and gameplay work so well together. Chronicles of Crime 1400 is a new standalone detective game that brings new cases to solve, using the same great system as the original Chronicles of Crime. The stories take place in medieval Paris, and you start by exploring the crime scene. Using the mobile phone app, you look around the virtual world, searching for clues. As you see things that could prove to be useful, you shout them out to your teammates. If you aren't observant enough, you could miss vital pieces of evidence that will make it harder for you to delve deeper into the case. Then you will visit locations and talk to the people connected to the case. Each character card has a QR code which you scan to talk to them. Then to ask them about someone or something, say the murder weapon, you scan the QR code of that. It gives you a real sense of freedom in your investigation because you can ask any character about anything. If you have a hunch that one character is the killer, you can ask everyone about them until you get something. Chronicles of Crime 1400 has two things that set it apart from the original game. First, there's your dog, Percival. He follows you around and you can get him to sniff objects to track the scent. He will either point you towards who last touched it or lead you to a new location. The other addition are these vision cards. Your character has prophetic dreams about the crimes. The game shows you these visions, but it's up to you to work out what they mean and how they relate to the case. It's a neat feature because it gives you something else to inspire your theories. As the case evolves, it gives you new context to the visions and what they're really telling you. And they help build out the world you're in, immersing you deeper into the story. If you already love Chronicles of Crime, this is more of the same great experience. And if you're new to it, you can absolutely start here. There's even a tutorial to teach you the game. I really appreciate that this is a standalone version of the game so that once you're finished with the cases from the original, you don't have to keep it around to play these new sets. Magic Maze on Mars is the sort of self-explanatory title that will put professional explainers like myself out of business. It tells you all you need to know, like Clank in Space or Herbie Goes Bananas. Our job this time is to control some helpful robots who are working hard to build biodomes on Mars so that humans can have a well-earned second chance at killing another planet. We have to produce the right resources to explore the planet and build the biodomes. Then once we're finished, transport the human to their new home. The logistical hiccup is that you're each assigned 2 colors and only you can produce those color resources. And only you can transport things along those color tracks. Just like Magic Maze, the workload is divided in a way that means you have to all be switched on and in sync at all times. To get something across the map, I'll move it along green, then someone else moves it along orange, then another player red, and then I'm back in on blue, and so on. It has the same core feeling as before, but with a pleasant change. It's a little easier to understand. The board is clearer, so when you don't spot something, you have no one to blame but yourself. There's still the satanic do something pawn, which you can place in front of your teammate to draw attention to their ineptitude and ultimately solve nothing. How someone uses the do something pawn is the ultimate reveal of their true personality. And it turns out there are a lot of psychopaths in the London board game scene. Like the original, they do a brilliant job of easing you into the rules by breaking it down into scenarios. They start off short and easy to complete so the tutorial doesn't outstay its welcome and you're soon into the meat of the game without any stress. Next are personal puzzles, thinky games where you're focused on your playing area. In Sagrada, you are using these dice to create a stained glass window. Every turn you take one and add it to your board. The challenge is in putting your dice in the right place. You're aiming to create certain patterns to get points. And to make that harder, some spots on your board can only take certain colors or numbers. And to make that harder, you can't put the same color or number next to each other. And finally, you've got to reckon with which dice came out of the bag this round. So you have to rein in your expectations a bit. You can't paint the Sistine Chapel if all you've got is crayons. And I guess the same applies in the world of Glacier. Sometimes they run out of purple glass, probably. The game does give you a few weapons with which to fight the luck of the dice. You can spend these gems to use one of these tools to change a number or move something around on your board. Sagrada is a really satisfying puzzle that is super easy to learn, but has enough to keep you engrossed. Its trick is that every time you come back to it, it feels like it's solvable, but it isn't. It's like doing a Sudoku where you can't use the number 7. I did a Sudoku once, easy, completed it. I never need to do another one. Whereas with Sagrada, there's a reason to keep coming back. It couldn't be named after a more apt cathedral because you could spend 100 years on it and still not feel like you've completed it. In Cascadia, you each build your own personal area of the Pacific Northwest by adding habitat tiles to expand your lands and putting animals in those habitats to live there. It has all these magnificent wild creatures like elk and hawks and bears. On your turn, you always take one of the pairs, one tile and one animal. And the habitat tile can go wherever you want, but ideally you want to expand regions of matching terrain because you'll score points for your biggest habitat of each type at the end of the game. Whereas the animal token can only be placed on a habitat tile that has its icon. The main goal of Cascadia is to place animals in certain patterns to score points. In each game you have a card for each animal telling you how it will score. So in this game you'll get 10 points for clusters of 3 bears, but next game you'll need the bears in pairs instead. It means that every time you decide where to put a habitat tile, you're actually planning ahead by putting it somewhere where it might help you create a long salmon run, for example. There's something satisfying about that. Every turn you not only get to build for the future, but you can also finish off something you planned earlier. Satisfying, that's the word that best describes Cascadia. And all my favorite puzzle games. When you slot something in that fits perfectly, you feel so pleased with yourself. It's like drawing something exactly how it looked in your head. I imagine, I've never actually done that. And it's a strategy that's easy to keep track of because those habitat tiles are the outline of the drawing you've already made, and you're now just following on tracing paper. The key to Cascadia is to not get your heart set on anything. It will come to your turn and there won't be any salmon again. That's your cue to pivot. Most habitats can take more than one type of animal, so you ditch your plans for a salmon run and stick bears down there instead. And I love that about this game. You never feel out of option. There's always something new to try. It helps that you're not constricted by a board or a fixed shape, so you can expand in any direction. The magic of Cascadia is in the little details. They might not sound like much when you read it in a rulebook or hear me talk about it, but when you play it, they work together to deliver a game that is way more than the sum of its parts. In my farm shop, you own a farm, and every time the dice are rolled, it activates one of your fields. So if I roll a 10, I get an egg, and if I roll a 5, I get some honey. The produce goes into my farm shop, and now I need to sell it to get money to prove to my father's ghost that I'm capable of running a farm. They're not explicit about that detail in the rulebook, but you've only got to look at the woman's sad eyes to fill in the blanks. And selling your produce is not a foregone conclusion in this game. You also have to roll the right number to make a sale. Now, if you've never played Catan, rolling 2 dice is a troublesome affair. Those 2 dice absolutely love the number 7, obsessed with it they are. And they're not half partial to a 6 or an 8, but they hate rolling the 2s, the 11s and 12s. to the point that you'd think they're incapable of doing it. Like a child who won't make the bed. You've seen it happen. You know it's possible. But don't hold your breath. The point is, if you can only sell produce when the dice rolls 11, you're not going to be selling very often. 3 dice means you can choose which 2 dice to pair up, so you have options over which field to activate. Simple. No, it's not simple, because the other die is used to choose one of 6 upgrades to your farm. Every turn you get a new card to improve a field. And as the game goes on, they get more powerful. When you take it, you can put it on any field, remembering that some numbers get rolled more than others. Do you want eggs more often, or do you want the opportunity to sell more often? The truth is, you don't know. This is exactly what your father's ghost was on about. The challenge in My Farm Shop is balancing stock turnover. There are times when your shop will be bursting with produce and you just can't sell it, to the point that excess goes to waste. And other times, the dice will grant you a rare chance to sell, and you've got nothing to sell. Beyond that, there are sunflowers which you can earn and place on a field to make it produce double. Every little rule is intuitive and adds its own weight to the decisions you make. Spring Meadow is basically Tetris, the board game.
We used to play Tetris on your Game Boy, John, didn't we? You were such a little angel back then.
Mum.
Don't be embarrassed. You were adorable.
No, Mum.
But as soon as Timmy was born, he was dead to me.
You're trying to fit these tricky shapes into your puzzle. You choose a piece and slot it into complete rows and leave no gaps.
Oh yeah.
There's just something so right about finding that perfect piece to fill our unique space. It taps into something deep within all of us.
God, that's good.
It's primal. We've been programmed by evolution to stick protrusions in openings.
Oh. I haven't had it this good since the 80s.
If your brain's up to it, Spring Meadow has a second level of puzzling going on. Not only do you want your pieces to fit neatly, but you're trying to line up these holes at the same time.
It's very tricky, but I think I've got it.
If you do that, you get these bonus rock pieces which will help you fill up your board even faster.
Rocks are perfect for those hard-to-reach areas that other brands can't cope with. Now I won't have to ask my husband for help. Thanks, Rocks.
Most of the games on this list have you interfering with the other players' plans. Spring Meadow is a more chilled out experience. So if you want to focus on your own thing while still crushing everyone on points, this is the game for you. In Cartographers, you're creating maps by adding regions of forest, farmland, rivers and villages to your board. Your queen has certain demands on how to arrange the lands. And I'd listen to her, because if you don't, she'll set her corgis on you. For example, she absolutely hates it when farmlands touch rivers. For each farmland and river that meet her drunken demands, you'll get 3 points. Each turn, you'll flip a card which tells you the type of regions you can put on your map and the awkward Tetris shape they come in. You can put it wherever you want, and that freedom is daunting. How will each positioning affect your 4 goals? Everyone creates their map at the same time, which keeps the game fast and interesting. The Queen's demands force you to focus on different things each round. In the first round, you'll be worried more about forests, farmlands and rivers because only they will score. But you know what demands are coming up for future rounds, so you can still plan your map around them, scoring them later. There's a few obstacles to keep you on your toes, such as these monster cards which are placed on your map by an opponent. Monsters get in the way and lose you points if you don't surround them on all sides. Cartographers is a really satisfying puzzle to get lost in. There's a natural desire to keep wanting to improve on what you created, drawing you back to the game to redeem your mistakes. It's perfect if you want something chilled and non-confrontational for 2 to 4 players in 45 minutes. On Tour is a puzzle game. You're trying to plan the perfect tour for your band across the United States. Every turn, the game gives you 2 numbers to write on your map, and they represent the gigs on your schedule. You're trying to create a route so that you can drive your tour bus from one gig to the next. At the end, the player with the longest continuous route will win the game. It's such an easy idea, in theory. You can even use your pen to map out an ideal route, but each turn you'll flip 3 cards, and you have to write the numbers in those regions. So early on, you're all optimistic. My tour will be the envy of all the bands.
No, John, no.
And that soon shifts to desperation, as you say goodbye to another section of the board. I can't take any more, okay? This is the sort of game that you'll pick up by the second turn. And it's nice because you're all playing at the same time, using the same numbers. So at the end, you can compare and see how much better or worse it could have gone. The genius touch of On Tour is that it tempts you into taking risks. Each card has a specific state written on it. And if you write your number in that state, it's worth an extra point. But to do it, you have to change your plans. It's the character in the music biopic that offers you drugs for the first time.
Why don't you come over here and play a little gig in Wyoming? I know you want to.
I can't. I promised my wife I'm going to Utah next.
Just one little gig in Wyoming never hurt nobody.
Oh, what the heck. Okay, but just this once. By the third act, that passion-fueled trip to Wyoming will have ruined your tour, and you'll only have yourself to blame. When it comes to regrets, like your tour bus driver, you've had a few, but you did it your way. Unfortunately, your way sucked. Still, the game takes less than 30 minutes, so now you know what you did wrong, you can go back and do it all again, and make some different mistakes. Do you ever wish you could customize your dice? Then you need to play Dice Forge. The premise is simple. You roll your 2 dice to collect resources, which you spend on upgrading your dice so that on future rolls you'll be even stronger and generate points to win the game. There's more luck here than with a deck building card game. There's no guarantee that the 6 you spent all your money on will ever be rolled. And that's what makes it exciting. It has you pleading with the dice every time you roll, and means you're elated when it does finally show its face. You'll always get something, and as you roll the pathetic 2 gold each turn, you'll be able to keep forging new faces to improve your odds of rolling something better in the next. I love the dilemma of how to improve your dice. Do you focus on lots of gold so you can keep forging more faces? Buy that one with 4 victory points on before anyone else. Focus on sun or moon shards that you need for buying cards with special powers. Or how about these fancy ones that let you decide which resource you want when you roll it? And is it best to spend that 3 gold now to buy 1 sun shard? Or save it until next turn to try and buy the 2 sun shard for 8? Every turn you don't have something, you won't be rolling it. And then which dice do you put it on? Do you share out the powerful faces across both your dice? Or do you put all your love into one of your children, so you guarantee that you'll get something good, like any good parent? As your dice get more powerful, balancing resources is a nightmare. Once you fill up your track, any more you roll will be wasted. There are ways around this. You can buy cards which convert excess gold into points, or you can simply buy an extension for your track. Each of them are great options, but you can only do one thing each turn. Buy from the market or buy a card. There's this pressure to do everything perfectly as you run out of time. The reason you get overrun with resources is because you roll your dice on everyone else's turns as well as yours. The game never drags because you're always involved. There's the face you can put on someone else's dice that scores you points. And who doesn't want the one that multiplies your other die's result by 3? The trouble is you need it all right now so that you get as many rolls out of it as possible before the end of the game. I highly recommend Dice Forge. Dream Home is full of classic board game dilemmas. Each turn you pick a room to add to your house. You can extend rooms to make them better, or add in pianos, 4-poster beds, or hot tubs. But not if someone else takes them first. You start off with the best of intentions. You want the big living room, the bathroom on both levels, and the perfect matching roof. But at some point you're going to have to give up on that dream. When do you admit to yourself it's time to settle? It plays really quickly, it has real visual appeal, and it still manages to squeeze in some strategic depth. In the beginning, there was Catan, and it begat in its own likeness Machi Koro. And Machi Koro begat Space Base, and Space Base begat My Farm Shop. And now, in the 26th year of our Lord, My Farm Shop begets Bad Company, a dice game about running a gang of criminals. Like its ancestors, you're rolling dice every turn and getting stuff. And here you get more control because you roll 4 dice and divide them into pairs to create 2 numbers. Those are the gang members you'll activate. Your gang members give you symbols to complete heist cards, or they give you money which you spend to upgrade your gang, adding a card on top, extending their neck. now you get all its symbols when it activates. So you can create a giraffe that gives you so much when you roll a 7 that you worry you've cheated. It's called happiness, and you're right to mistrust it. This game is great at making you feel good. Even when you don't roll what you want, there's something you can do. You can pay money to re-roll the dice. You can use a loot card to change the results. Even symbols you don't need can be traded in for other stuff. And all those options means you feel clever when you string something together. It's the satisfaction of knowing you built this house. Whereas in Machikoro, it feels like winning the lottery. It's still fun, but you can't be as smug about it. I mean, you've watched Grand Design, so you know what these people are like. Trying to find the best option means you'll be transfixed at your player board, which makes it even more of a solitary game than its brethren. But there are some great reasons to care what the others are doing. Like if you steal the most of something, you win a gold chain and put it on one of your gang members. Every time you activate them now, you get a point, which is massive. Now you know your golden child is special, you give it all your attention, like any good parent. But be careful because the other players will be trying to steal your gold chain off you. If my farm shop is Haagen-Dazs, then Bad Company is Ben & Jerry's. Don't make me choose, I'm only human. In Railroad Inc., you're trying to connect up railways and highways to create the best transport network and get the most points. But you can only draw on your board what comes up on the dice each round. It's an engrossing puzzle as you try to make it all fit and desperately hope for the routes you need to come up to save your plans. It plays well from 1 to 6 players and comes in a gorgeous package. Copenhagen is a Tetris-shaped tile laying game from Queen Games. The idea is you're building the facades of houses in the colourful neighbourhood of Nyhaven. Each row you complete on your house gets you 1 point, and each column is worth 2 points. You're racing to get to 12 points to win the game. The trick is in lining up your tiles so you can complete rows and columns of windows. If you do that, you get double the points. But it's incredibly tricky because all of the tiles have pesky blank spaces that get in the way and poison your potential columns with their mediocrity. To get the tiles you want, you have to collect cards of the matching colour. It works in a very similar way to Ticket to Ride. You can either spend your turn picking up cards or playing them to build tiles, which means that the gameplay is really speedy. You have to pick up 2 cards that are at adjacent harbours, so that's another wrinkle to deal with. And to buy a piece, you'll need a number of cards equal to how many squares big it is. Collecting 5 cards of one colour can take a while, so you might be forced to rethink if they're not coming up for you. But the tiles are in limited quantity, so if someone gets there first, you might never get it. Those are the obstacles of the game, but whether you win will come down to your creative use of the tools you have. If you put a tile in that's touching a tile of the same colour, you get a 1 card discount. And you each start the game with a special tile that allows you to draw cards from anywhere, not just adjacent harbours. But once you've used it, it's flipped down. But when you place a tile that covers one of these shield icons, you can either buy a new special ability, place a single window, or reactivate all your used abilities. This is the secret heart of the game, as it makes your turns super efficient as you get abilities which allow you to pay 1 less card when buying a tile, or to pick up cards and play them in the same terms. Copenhagen is a really great newbie-friendly strategy game with a little more depth for heavier gamers than something like Ticket to Ride can offer. Actual is an independent board game channel that doesn't make paid content, so I can recommend the games I believe in, not what I've been paid to cover. To support that endeavour, please become a patron of the channel at patreon.com/actuallol. The next group is called Friendly Competition, games where you've got to keep an eye out for your rivals. Ticket to Ride is all about having a strategy, planning a great train adventure across the United States, and being ready to rethink everything when your rivals get in the way. You're given secret goals, cities that you need to visit on the map.
I want to go from Portland, Ohio to Nashville, Tenthity.
But you also want to connect Vancouver to Duluth. So if you're clever, you can kill the 2 birds with 1 bird-killing train ride. The trouble is, there's limited space, and Barry has got plans to connect Calgary to Nashville. If he gets his route down before you, you're going to have to take the long way round.
No, I need to get to Duluth. I'm so disappointed.
Yeah, just like if you'd gone to Duluth. Am I right?
I don't know. I've never been to Duluth. And neither have you.
Yeah, but...
Is this the sort of joke you make on your YouTube channel? It's not very nice, is it? If I was from Duluth, I'd have a right mind to unsubscribe. course, I expect you'll get away with it since they're probably all simpletons there.
You're trying to collect sets of cards that match where you want to build, but if your colours don't come up, you have to decide, do you wait another turn for your dream card?
Pink, I know if I wait, she'll come. Any minute now. Any minute now. Any minute now.
Or give up on your dream and settle for the less appealing alternative that's available right now?
I've been settling for what's available right now since 1982.
But we got married in 99.
You're just the latest in a long line, Barry.
Ticket to Ride is as simple as board games get. It's just 3 pages of rules. But within there's a brilliant formula of luck and strategy and racing to get ahead of your friends that just hooks you. And once you're hooked, there's maps of Europe, Asia, the UK and more to explore.
In Carcassonne, you are all creating a region of France on the table. You take a tile and you have to add it to the map. What makes it so smooth is that the rules are visually intuitive. You can't connect a road to an empty field, but you wouldn't want to, it would feel wrong. Roads meet roads, cities meet cities, fields meet fields. It's like being the child of an Instagrammer. If it doesn't look nice, you can't do it. When you place a tile, you can add one of your people to it to take ownership of the city or road that you're building, so that when it's completed, you'll score points for how big it is and get your person back. Or should I say, if it's completed. If it gets too big or you don't get the tiles you need, it might never be finished, and your person will be stuck on it all game. Their only life on this earth spent working towards a project that gets completely forgotten about, like a medieval Netflix original. And you only have a few people, so you have to be careful where you invest them. It feels terrible to send your last person to control a tiny road one turn, and then the next draw a monastery tile which you can't use because you don't have anyone left. It'd be like marrying off your daughter to a blacksmith just to get a free axe, and then the next day you hear the Crown Prince is single. What I love about Carcassonne is that you're all adding to the map together in a sort of reluctant collaboration. And if you're feeling feisty, you can try to leech off someone else's city or road and get the points that they've built up. Or just make it harder for them to ever finish it. What are you doing?
I'm making your city bigger.
But now I'm never going to get to finish it, and I'm never going to get my worker back.
Yes.
There is one tricky rule with Carcassonne, the farmer rule. But in the latest version, they tell you to play without it for the first game. It's even on a separate rule sheet, so it doesn't confuse you. A farmer scores points for all the cities in the field he's lying in, so it gives you an extra reason to build in certain places, and to make sure you finish your cities off. Add it in once everything else makes sense, but make sure you do, because it really ties the game together.
Only in board games will I ever be a superhero or a criminal or someone that walks for hours without needing to get somewhere. I'd rather wait for paint to die than go hiking. But sitting at home pretending to do it in parks is fun. The goal is to collect sunshine, rain, trees and mountains to cash in for park cards. To collect tokens, you walk along the trail, taking the action where you stop. But where to stop? The trail is chock-a-block with other hikers and you can only stop on a free space. Those other mofos are giving you FOMO, so you're inclined to skip half the trail to get onto the one you really want before someone else grabs it. The pace is set by your impatience because the last hiker left is forced to go home. The game is doing everything it can to hurry you along by giving free tokens to the first player to reach a spot and discounts for finishing the trail first. It's a constant balance between leisurely strolling, trying to take in as much of the scenery as possible, and a ruthless get in, get what you need, and get out strategy, treating nature like a shopping mall on Christmas Eve. Always with an eye on your rivals to see if they're going to snatch the park you want from under your nose. I love a game that breeds mistrust and resentment, the feelings I held towards my dad when he dragged me hiking. Yet once you're finished, the endorphins and the Mars bar kicks in, and it didn't seem so bad after all. Parks is a great little strategy game and unlike any other game in my collection. Sushi Roll is a dice game about eating sushi.
You're competing to have the best meal of sushi, taking dice from the conveyor belt to add to your plate. Then the conveyor belts move around the table and you pick again. You're trying to collect sets of sushi to score points, such as 2 tempura or 3 sashimi. And I love that you can look at what's on the other conveyor belts this round and decide whether you can pull it off. You have to account for what you think the other players will take and gamble on the dice going your way, because when the conveyor belts move, you have to roll all of the dice. so your options will change. And there's some added drama with these swap tokens where you can steal a dice from another player's conveyor belt. And the reroll tokens will let you re-roll dice when you're really trying to get something you need. Rules-wise, all you have to understand is how each type of sushi scores. And you can't forget it because it explains it on your player board.
In Luxor, you have a team of Indiana Joneses venturing into some poor soul's burial chamber to take artifacts that you've decided belong in a museum. One that's nowhere near Egypt. To steal an artifact, you need to coordinate your thieves to land on the same spot. And that's the challenge, because you move a guy by playing a number card and you only have 2 options each turn, the outer cards of your hand. It really limits you, but you can see what cards are coming up and plan your next few turns to get your team where you want them. It's really satisfying when you pull it off. But you can't just worry about your plans. You need to watch the other players who might grab the artifact you want first. It's like traversing an IKEA where there's only one of everything, but without the dark impulses. You also have to keep an eye on how far into the temple everyone's getting, because the game ends when 2 adventurers reach the final chamber, and the further back you finish, the less points you'll get. It creates this amazing sense of unease. Should I be running for the end? Eventually, one of you will give in to that pressure, like an eBay bidder who pays the full buy it now price because they can't take the fear of missing out any longer. Luxor is a quick playing, beginner friendly game that takes an hour for 2 to 4 players. Trekking the World does everything it can to stop you from needing to go back to the rulebook. At every step, there's a player aid or a visual cue to remind you of what you should be doing. In the game, you're trekking the world, visiting famous sightseeing spots. There are always 4 hot destinations to visit, and you're racing to Instagram them first by collecting the right colored cards and sending your adventurer to the location to claim it. And the game pits you against each other by making 2 of them worth even more points to make you want them more. As you travel around the map collecting the cards you need, you're also picking up souvenirs from all the places you visit, taking its cube and putting it in your suitcase. If you have the most figurines, you get this tile which is worth 11 points. But if someone gets more of them later on, they'll steal it off you. It's like the battle for the longest road in Catan, but there's 4 of them to fight over. So you've got to spread your focus between getting the big destination cards before anyone else and trying to pick up the cubes you want on the way. Plus, if you take the last cube from a continent, you get another bonus. One of the best touches is not even part of the game. On the back of each destination card is a description of the place. They know that when you play a game like this, you'll talk about the places that you've visited and want to visit, so that when you come across a place you don't know, you can read the card and find out that Mysore Palace is not just something you say when you get kicked in the groin. Azul is a game about Portuguese tiling that has sold 1 million copies, and a game that really makes you think, mostly about how much you underestimated the popularity of Portuguese tiling. On your turn, you pick a collection of matching tiles from one of these coasters, adding them to your board. The tiles you didn't take from that coaster are pushed into the center of the table, creating a coaster of its own. And when you think about it, aren't tables the original coaster? On your board, you're trying to complete rows of the same tile. When you do, you'll add one of them to your mosaic, winning the plaudits of the Portuguese tiling subreddit. Every time you add to a row or column of tiles in your mosaic, you'll score points for each tile in that line. The challenge is in working with what's available and timing when to grab the tiles you need. If you shift some reds into the center on this turn, then next turn you'll get a bigger collection of them by taking from the center. But be careful, another player could spot your plans and push more reds into the center to spite you. If you want them now, you have to take them all, and you'll be penalized for throwing away excess tiles. And rightly so. These tiles are Portuguese, not French. Azul is the simplest game on this list for 2 to 4 players in 45 minutes, but still with plenty to fox you.
Seven Wonders Architects feels like it was designed to welcome people into board gaming. It's a dream to teach, a breeze to set up, and a peach to play. Every turn you take a card, either the one on your left, the one on your right, or the one in the middle. That's it. That's all the choice you get. 3 things. 3. Isn't this supposed to be a modern board game? I get more options out of a baseball cap. At least 5, and that's off the top of my head. And yet, there are still tough decisions. Do you take the wood that builds the next stage of your wonder? That gets you points and rushes the end of the game. Or do you take the science card that will make you more powerful? Like every time you take a wood now, you get an extra turn. That's huge. It's like being in a tapas restaurant. Everything is good, but it's all about when things come out. It's a fat lot of use than bringing the chorizo out at the end when I've forgotten I ordered it and filled up on patatas bravas, isn't it? And just like a tapas meal, you're sharing these dishes with the people sitting next to you. So if you don't eat that croqueta this turn, your neighbor's gonna take it. The whole game, you'll be begging them not to take the cards you want. And because everything is out in the open for everyone to watch, it makes for a really social game, much more than the original Seven Wonders or Sushi Go. And it's quick, even in a game with 6 players. That's the upside of having such a simple choice. Every little rule is adding to the experience, like the middle deck that anyone can take from. The cards are face down. It's the perfect mystery box. You've got 2 options you can see, bit boring, but the mystery box could be anything. And if you get the cat token, you can look at the middle card that no one else can see. It's those little touches, like your special ability, that are easy enough to teach, but give the game just enough modern board game magic to tell newbies, Monopoly is dead, now go buy a Kallax. In Clank, you're adventurers going into a dungeon to try and steal as much loot as possible from a dragon and get out in time before it kills you. Clank is a deck building game, which is a type of game where you have a deck of cards and each turn you're using those cards to buy more cards to go into your deck to make it better. So as the game goes on, your deck gets stronger and stronger. In some deck building games, that's all you're doing. In Clank, you're using your cards to move through the dungeon and kill monsters. For example, if I play 3 cards with this foot symbol, I can move 3 spaces. But because you only draw 5 of your cards each turn, you won't always get to do what you want. That limitation makes this game. You might be right by the exit, desperate to race out of the dungeon to avoid the dragon, but if your cards don't have movement on them, you're stuck. It adds a fun layer of desperation that I've not found with other deck building games, and I love the feeling that it's your own decisions coming back to haunt you. The reason no movement cards came up is because you chose to fill your deck with loads of other special cards. At its heart, Clank is a game of risk-taking. You win by stealing the most loot, which means you'll be rewarded for staying in the dungeon as long as possible, grabbing everything those other cowards left behind. But the longer you stay in, the more chance you'll be attacked by the dragon. As you roam the dungeon, you're making noise, or clank. This gets added to a bag, and when the dragon attacks, cubes are pulled out. If your colour comes out, you take a wound. The more noise you make, the more likely you'll be attacked. This is one of Clank's best bits, as everyone dreads the next dragon attack and desperately hopes their cubes won't be drawn. Again, it's about pushing your luck. You could make loads of noise and get away with it, or get your comeuppance. It means that Clank always ends with a tight cinematic finish. Blue draws the right cards and escapes just before the dragon attacks, and red gets eaten 2 spaces from the exit. Death isn't the end, because if you die in the upper part of the dungeon, the villagers will rescue you and reanimate your corpse. But you won't get the 20-point bonus for getting out alive, which can be crucial. If you die in the dungeon's depths, you're officially dead and can't win. I love this aspect. Every time I've played, I've been so close to escaping, but never made it out. I love that in every game, I want to try something different, thinking that I've finally got the dungeon cracked. From the cards that are available to buy to the secret tokens you pick up that give you healing potions or boots of swiftness. It feels different each time. I highly recommend Clank. In Diamant, the players only need to know one thing, whether to stick or twist. You all play as treasure hunters going into a cave to grab some jewels. In every round, everyone decides whether to go further into the cave to get more stuff or run away with your winnings straight back to the British Museum. If you stay in, a new card is flipped. It could be more treasure, which you divide equally among the people still in the cave. Or you could encounter something bad, like snakes. It was the exact plot of the film Indiana Jones. There was also some Goonies in there. Finding one hazard is fine, but if you find 2 of the same type, you have to leave the cave and lose all the treasure you found this round. You've gone bust. You should have left when you had the chance. Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes? It's such an easy game to run because every turn, everyone makes the same decision to stay or go. They don't even have to understand why they're making it at first. They'll soon realize when they lose all their treasure. And to help you out, there's a player aid to remind you what to do. But there's an extra twist that makes Diamant spicy. Any treasure which can't be split between the players stays on the path. And if you leave the cave, you can take it all. So you're not just gambling against the game, you're playing chicken with your friends on when to try and grab the stash. If you did make it out alive, you keep your hoard in your treasure chest. The player with the most rubies wins. They're just points, but points mean so much more when they're shiny and kept in a treasure chest. Quest for El Dorado is a race. You use your cards to send your adventurers through the jungle and down rivers to get to El Dorado before anyone else. As you go, you can recruit better helpers to help you get through tougher regions and move faster. But don't take too long recruiting people because if other players get in front, they'll block your path and hold you back. There's plenty to think about. Blue Lagoon, a tile laying game from Reiner Knizia. I love this one because of how simple the game is on its surface, but how deep it feels. That's not a joke about lagoons, it really is like that. Every turn, you only place one tile as you settle your people on these islands. And the tough decision is where to place, because there are a few ways to score points, and you want to aim for all of them at once. You get points for having the most tiles on an island, and for being on all islands, and for having a continuous path connecting multiple islands, and for collecting resources. And the game makes you believe you can achieve it all. The trouble is, everyone else is getting in your way, blocking off your path. So, do you race to pick up resources before anyone else gets them? Or do you race to hold the vital middle ground so you don't get cut off from where you want to go? I love getting close to what I need, but not taking it yet. If someone tries to come near and grab it, then I'll take it. But I want them to waste their time trying first. I feel like an octopus with each arm hovering over a different cookie jar. Or fish paste, I guess. But eventually, I hover over so many good things that I can't defend them all in one turn. It's amazing how important placing one small tile onto a board each round can feel. That's the Reiner Knizia magic. It's a tactical wolf in sheep's clothing. And why shouldn't wolves have soft fluffy coats?
One of the best flip and write games ever made. Most and write games are lonely affairs. You each stay within the confines of your personal paper with no concept of what the other players are up to. Like a group of commuters all driving alongside each other every day in separate cars, never even learning each other's names. Let's Make a Bus Route brings everyone together by having you draw on a shared board, like commuting to work on a bus. Okay, so you still don't know each other's names, but you can smell who didn't brush their teeth this morning. As your bus winds the streets of Kyoto, you want to pick up tourists, then score them by dropping them off at landmarks, ferry kids to school, give old people a place to sit, and take commuters to train stations. It dangles the promise of points in 5 different directions, and you buckle under the excitement, half-arsing all of them because your mum let you play with too many toys at once as a child. In your quest for perfection, or question, as I like to call it, you're encouraged to sacrifice points by paying to change the shape that you can draw that round. You've got a private goal you're clinging to whilst racing to beat everyone else to hit certain landmarks. And if another player has already used a street that you're going down, you create traffic. The player who caused the most traffic is docked points. There's loads to consider, but with the simplicity you expect from a roll and write game. The shared board is a complete game changer.
When I'm bringing out a game to play with non-gamers, I want something short, simple, and loads of fun. And my number one pick in that situation is always Las Vegas. It's great to teach because you can just start playing and teach everyone on their first turn. In fact, it's so easy, you can teach it in rhyme. If you haven't even the vaguest clue of how to play Las Vegas, you should shut up and sit down, you brainless fools. I'm here to explain the rules. Roll your dice in the tray, then choose a number you want to play. Put all the dice of that kind on the casino they're assigned. If by the end you have the most dice there, you will win riches beyond compare. Unless there is a tie. To those dice we must say goodbye. That's it. See, wasn't that painless? You now know how to play Las Vegas. It has everything I want from this type of game. It's competitive. You're trying to win the casinos with the most money on them by getting more of your dice on there than anyone else. But it isn't aggressive. You aren't attacking each other. It's full of gambling and trying to make loads of money, or playing it safe and guaranteeing you get something. Every turn there's tough decisions to make. If you roll loads of sixes on your first turn, do you put them down now and try to scare everyone else off? But that's a waste of so many dice, so maybe you put down 1-5 and hope you get some sixes later. I love that there's always big moments. When a casino switches hands with the last roll, or when someone accidentally makes a tie and someone else wins 100 grand with one dice. It means that everyone's always watching and invested in the game. The most available version at the moment is Las Vegas Royale, which has a bunch of extras you can add in after a few games. It will teach you the rules to Las Vegas first, and it's brilliant on its own. But if you want to add some more drama or more chaos, you can add in these tiles that give you special abilities and mini-games and ways to make even more money. Finally, we have our feisty games, the games with the most interaction and conflict between players.
In Sheriff of Nottingham, you have to work out when your friends are lying to you and try to smuggle goods past each other.
Welcome to Nottingham Airport. Do you have anything to declare? Yeah, Nottingham's a dump. Karen? Yeah, can you call Big Hands Dave? I've got a randomly selected cavity search for him.
As a smuggler, you can decide whether to fill your pouch full of contraband or keep it legal and bring in humble goods for your market.
Please, kind sir, may I bring in 3 chickens?
The sheriff has to work out whether to let you through because you're telling the truth or open your bag because you're lying. If they catch you in the act, you have to pay a fine.
Pepper. I knew it. Look, in Nottingham, we do not take kindly to people trying to introduce flavour to our meals. If you'd eaten here, you'd know that.
But if they open your bag and you were telling the truth, they have to pay you, which puts them in this amazing predicament with potential for double, triple, or quadruple bluffing.
If I open this bag, I better not find more than 100 millilitres of shampoo. A friend actually packed that bag for me, so I don't know what's in there. Maybe you should open it and see. Oh, you want me to open it? Well, I'm not doing it. Move along. Great. Wait, are you happy about that?
If you're terrible at bluffing, you can always negotiate with the sheriff, offer them a bribe to let your bag of contraband through.
Here, take this £5 to thank you for such good sheriffing.
Deal. I'll give you £3 if you open her bag.
Barry, I'll give you £10 if you just shut your pie hole.
If you relish lying to each other's faces, get Sheriff of Nottingham. It's full of laugh out loud moments and screams of horror, because when that pouch gets popped, it's all over.
10.
I'll give you 4, and that's already too much.
10.
It's not worth 10.
Fine.
But we were making a deal.
In Colt Express, you're vying to be the best outlaw in the West by running around this 3D train, robbing passengers, and shooting each other.
I don't think this is setting the right example for Timmy.
Yeah, we don't want another train geek in the family. I ride the train. That doesn't make me a train geek. You ride the train, and you're a geek. You're a train geek.
On your turn, you play a card to do something, such as move to the next carriage, climb up to the roof, or punch another player's character.
Let me see. I punch Timmy.
Oh, so that's why he's a bit slow.
Who's a bit slow?
The twist is, everyone plans their actions before anything happens. So you might think you're punching someone, but when it comes around, they've already run away.
I punch. Oh, no one.
Haha, I got away. I'm Timmy the Unpunchable.
I shoot Timmy.
Oh?
There's also a marshal on the train protecting $1,000, which could be yours if you time it right. But if he catches you, he'll shoot you.
I've been shot. Mother, grant me one last request.
Anything, darling.
Have them play Baby Shark at my funeral.
Won't your death be pain enough?
Every bullet you take will slow you down by clogging up your hand with useless cards. Trying to pull off a heist whilst dodging bullets feels like you're in a movie. If you want a strategic game, look elsewhere on this list. Colt Express is chaotic fun. You'll need to ride your luck to take the win.
After the 5th recount, Timmy is definitely the winner.
Yay! I'm the best cowboy. Moo! 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 Milk.
K2, the first ever sequel to a mountain, subtitle Too Frost, Too Formidable, is a death trap. You're racing each other to the top, but be careful, there's a very, very strong chance you'll die doing it.
Timmy, here's another scarf. You'll catch your death out there.
Thanks, Mummy.
And Barry, I brought you a t-shirt. It's white, so hopefully Mountain Rescue won't find you.
Knowing your climber could die makes the game really exciting. One wrong move and it could all be over. If you Icarush your way up the mountain, you might get up and down just before you freeze, but it's more likely you'll become an ice statue to your own stupidity.
Well, at least he died doing something he loved. Being wrong.
You can check the weather forecast to plan your ascent for when the storm has cleared, and pitch your tent and camp out to acclimatise yourself to the cold.
Jonathan, please use your tent. It's freezing.
No. I'm 35. I'm old enough to know what I like. And what I like is to hate camping.
But watch out for your rival climbers. As you get closer to the peak, the walking paths narrow, and other people can get in your way and stop you from moving. If you're feeling especially mean, you can block your opponent's path back down so they freeze at the top.
I got to the top. I'm the best climber. Oh. Have you told anyone yet? No, I can't get any signal up here. Now let me past, I'm going down. No signal. Well, I'll be sure to pass on the message that you fought bravely, but couldn't quite get to the top. You what? Let me past, I'm freezing. Yes, you're freezing. That's the idea.
As tabletop climbing goes, K2 is more thrilling than climbing on top of a table, but not quite as exciting as climbing to the top of Table Mountain. In K2, you feel like a climber, trying to prove you've got the biggest cojones. And it gives you the thrill of always being one step away from disaster. So unless cojones is Spanish for oxygen tanks, you're gonna die. It'll still be fun though. In the Resistance, there are traitors in your group, and you've got to work out who you can trust. You're either a loyal member of the Resistance,
I'm a good guy.
or an Imperial spy trying to sabotage the cause from within.
I'm a good guy too. Psst. Not really.
The spies know who each other are, but they need to pretend like they're good guys. The Resistance are in the dark. They have to watch everyone closely and trust no one. The group must decide which players can be trusted to go on missions by voting.
John can't go. He's a spy.
What? No, I'm not. What makes you say that?
A mother just knows these things. Like I knew that you must have finally got a girlfriend because there was less tissues in the bin because you weren't crying so much.
Spies will be trying to convince everyone they should go so they can sabotage it.
All right. Success. Success. Fail. Who's done that?
The good guys don't know who's played it, so they'll be accusing each other left, right, and centre. It gets heated.
It has to be Timmy. He was on both failed missions.
But it wasn't. Why wouldn't you believe me?
Jonathan, be nicer to your brother. You know, he gets bullied at school.
Do I?
As a good guy, you have to go with your gut. This game gives you a dramatic finish when it comes down to the last mission. And the feeling of betrayal when you realise you put your trust in the wrong person is like nothing else.
Haha, no one ever expects Mum, but I've got hidden depths, you know. I once broke the stalk of a broccoli in the supermarket so that it would cost less.
Yeah, okay, Mum, you're really cool.
And I once snapped a badger's neck.
Wow. Wait, it was already dying, right?
The Resistance is a game for bigger groups, from 5 to 10 players. It can be intense as accusations fly around and people desperately plead their innocence, but it can also deliver experiences you'll never forget. We all need a chance to be evil for a bit. Take a holiday from your morals in Survive Escape from Atlantis, where nice guys always finish last.
You're all bloody wankers, the lot of you.
Timmy, where on earth did that come from?
It's those biological parents of his, innit? I always said they sent us a duffer.
The island is sinking into the ocean. You're trying to get your adventurers onto these lifeboats to ferry them to safety, but there's nowhere near enough of them.
Yeah, let's get out of here, John.
What happened to women and children first?
That was back in the old days. We've got equality for women now, just like you wanted.
Well, I wanted a man who doesn't spend his life getting outbid on eBay for signed photos of old page 3 models because he's too cheap for his own pathetic hobby.
No, I wasn't being cheap. My card was declined.
Except there's nothing safe about the lifeboats because they can get smashed into bits by whales, forcing you to swim.
Oh no, whales!
It's normal to be frightened, darling, but Wales is miles away, and there will never be a reason to go there.
And then you're at the mercy of the sharks who will eat you.
Are they baby sharks? Baby shark, dee.
No, absolutely not. The rules are very clear on that.
Are they mummy and daddy sharks? Mummy shark.
No, they are actually grown-up sharks that have chosen not to have children because they want a peaceful life.
Oh.
That was a close one.
These sea serpents aren't nearly as picky. They'll eat the boat and you with it. What's fun is that you'll get the chance to move them and decide who they eat.
How's your lifeboat working out for you now, Billy Zane?
You won't get everyone out alive, but under each figure is a number. Some are worth saving more than others. If you make it too obvious which ones you're desperate to save, they'll become a target.
Be careful, little man. I just bring the boat a little bit closer to land so you don't get your feet wet.
Survive is a game of betrayal, retaliation, and desperation that is full of big moments and friendly and not so friendly vendettas. When you play QE, it feels like you're being studied for a psychological experiment. It's an auction game where you can bid any amount of money you like. And what happens is you get carried away with your spending, and it feels very much like you're failing the psychological experiment. The trick to winning the game is to fail it slightly less than one of your opponents. You each play as a global superpower, or the UK, and you have a license to print money, which is the slogan of James Bond's older brother, Investment Bond. With that money, you'll bid on companies that get auctioned each turn. One player is the auctioneer, and they reveal what's up for grabs. Let's say it's a Japanese agriculture firm. The auctioneer makes the starting bid, writing any amount of money on their whiteboard and showing the group. If the other players want it, and believe me, you always want it, they'll write a bid on their whiteboard in secret. Yeah, nothing quite raises the blood pressure and the spending like the unknown. You only get one chance to bid. If you bid too low, you'll get nothing. Except you've got no frame of reference of what too low is. Each country hands their secret bid to the auctioneer, who takes a look and announces a winner, but not the winning amount. Only they will know what everyone bid. They write the winning amount underneath the prize and give it to the winner. At the end of the game, you'll flip them over and reveal how much everyone spent. The bids will creep up and up as the losing bidders become more and more desperate to score some points, and the winners know they'll have to up their bids to compete. It makes you feel like you're going mad as you keep raising your bid to ridiculous heights and find yourself still getting outbid. There's a fever to it. More than once, I've seen players just laughing at the experience. The crucial, important reason you don't want to overspend for everything is because at the end of the game, the player who recklessly spent the most money is eliminated from the game. They can't win. And so it's okay to get caught up in this arms race of bidding so long as you know when to stop. You won't win the game by being cautious, you'll win it by going along for the ride, getting everyone amped up, then taking a sharp left turn before the others drive off the cliff. Every tile is worth points, but there's a big advantage to winning sets of matching industries, or a diverse mix of all different types. The game does a brilliant job of making you feel like you need to win auctions, and when you feel like you need to win, any semblance of chill you had goes out the window. The feeling of bidding in the dark is what makes this game special. Only when it's your turn to play auctioneer do you get a glimpse into where the other players' heads are at. QE is great at delivering a big finish because the reveal of how much money everyone has spent is so exciting. Bonanza is the ultimate trading game. You're planting beans in your fields to harvest them for points. The more you get, the better, so you need to make deals with the other players, trying to get what you need.
Have you got any, sour beans? These ones?
You don't have enough room to plant everything, so you have to make tough decisions about when to cash out on a field. Don't be put off by the artwork. This game is one of a kind. It's been around for 20 years and nothing has come close to replacing it. Celestia is all about reading your friends and deciding whether you can trust them. You're all aboard an airship and you take it in turns as captain, in charge of getting the ship to the next island. Each voyage will encounter random obstacles, and the captain must play the matching cards to deal with them, or the ship will crash. But before they do, the other players can jump ship because they don't think it's going anywhere. Like a YouTube viewer who hasn't been entertained in the last 6 seconds, despite me spending weeks on this. If they get out now, they'll get a point card from the current city, but they'll miss out on something so much more valuable if the ship/video carries on without them. This game is so much better when you get the captain to tell the others whether they can make it, and they have to work out whether she's bluffing or not. The captain might want to let them think it's crashing to convince everyone to get out so she can carry on alone, getting more points than everyone else. Good for her. Some ships you just fly for the artistic reward anyway, not the viewers. The best bits of Celestia are when everything goes wrong. It's hard not to laugh when the ship crashes or when someone gets left behind. It takes 45 minutes for 4 to 6 players, the more the merrier, or swearier. That's everything. If you want to buy one of the games, there are links below. And for more game recommendations, please subscribe to the channel or get my Patreon newsletter at patreon.com/actuallol. I'm John Perkis. Thanks for watching.